Hello, folks. Welcome once again to the Boneyard / YouTube Network and the Hillbilly Cooking Network, where we talk about Bigfoot, motorcycles, midgets, monkeys, Jesus, 45s, you name it. We talk about it. Anything that interests you, because I know what people like. Monkeys, midgets, good food. I know what people like. I guarantee you do. If you hadn't bought my book, buy it. It will entertain you, I promise you. One of the stories in here is about One-Eyed John and the Boneyard Slash. And it's not all stories about hunting and fishing and all that. There's lots of other things, from country schools and different things, motorcycle wrecks and shootouts, and we'll get on to some of those stories later on. But right now we'll talk about a One-Eyed John. When I was a kid, about 10, 11 years old, Brother Billy Stevens used to come down and pick me up, take me coon hunting with him. Brother Billy was a preacher. He was a farmer. He raised lots of hogs, hauled hay, did a little bit of everything, but he was also a Pentecostal preacher, a great guy. Took me coon hunting with him a lot when I was a little kid, and then went when I got grown too. But anyway, there's an old boy in our area, we called him One-Eyed John. He had a patch over one eye. Therefore, we called him One-Eyed John. Everybody knew who you was talking about. You weren't talking about some other John. You was talking about One-Eyed John. So anyway, and him and Brother Billy went hunting a lot, and they also did some trapping together, trapping for furs and stuff. And One-Eyed John, he would argue with a compass. We'd be down in the bottoms past the Boneyard Slash, or in the Slash, down close to the Red River. Big vast areas down there. We'd be off in the woods and thickets. Be time to go back to the truck for the night. Brother Billy'd call in the dogs, and he said, "Okay, boys, let's call it a night." And we'd have dogs leashed up, heading back to the truck. John say, "We need to go this way." And Brother Billy, he'd say, "No, we need to go this way." And Brother Billy's looking at his compass, knew his way around them woods, but sometimes on them dark nights, you need a compass. And John, he would argue with the compass. He said, "That compass not right. I know these bottoms like the back of my hand, and I'm going this way." Well, I, as a child, 10, 11 years old, I'm just sitting there watching this, thinking, okay, I hope I can make it back to the truck and get home before daylight. So anyway, Brother Billy said, "Fine, John. You go which way you think you need to go. Me and Ronald here, we and the dogs are going back to the truck. I'm going to wait on you about 30, 45 minutes after we get there. If you ain't there, we're going to leave you." John says, "That's fine, no problem, because I know where I'm going." Anyway, me and Brother Billy go to the truck, make it there. Sit there, wait on John. About 30, 45 minutes, here he comes from another direction, fighting his way through the brush and the brambles, and shows up at the truck. He said, "See, I told y'all this was the way back to the truck." Yeah, it's highly entertaining, I'm telling you. And John, like I said, he insisted that he do all the shooting when we were hunting. He felt he was a superior shot. I'm not sure why. He carried a .22 pistol, and it had a barrel about this long. I'm not joking. They call it a trapper. But anyway, it's about this long, and he had it in a holster. And when we would tree a coon or a possum, and he was going to do the shooting, he would draw this pistol out, and it would have to come up past his ears to clear the holster. And he would do the shooting with that one eye, and he would shoot. And he'd miss. And he'd reload. And he'd shoot. Boom. And he'd miss. And sometimes this would go on 20 times. I'm not joking. Brother Billy'd tell him, "John, why don't you let me shoot that coon?" "No, I'm going to get him this time. Just hang on. Can't have no holes in that hide. I'm going to shoot him right between the eyes, because, hide will bring more money from the fur buyer if it don't have but one hole in it." One night, the dogs got so tired of sitting there waiting on the coon to fall out for them, they laid down under the tree. And some of them went to sleep. And by the time John had shot the coon out of the tree, they wasn't even interested. I mean, they were done. Brother Billy just sit there and shake his head, and I'm just sitting there watching the show, you know. But just stuff like that, it was always something. And one-eyed John, he would sell hides and furs back in those days. Not that long ago, really. Fur buyers come to Chakota, Texas, once a week, once every 2 weeks. They had a note posted up on the wall there at the store out there in the country, and it told everything they bought, various prices that they were given. And people want to sell hides. You showed up there on Saturday at whatever time he's going to be there, and he'd sort through your hides and look at the quality of the furs and such as this and pay you for them. And it was always a big deal out there in the country, several people gathering around. Some people made a living doing this back in those days. This is when I was a kid, and as I got a little older. But anyway, I think Peter's put a stop to all that. But back in them days, like I said, and people actually made a living at it, and it was part of their income. But John, he was not that good at taking care of his hides and his furs. Now, me and two of my friends, Bradley Brown and Brian Brown, whenever we were killing coons, after we skin them out good, you skin them from the tip of the tail to the tip of the nose, the whole hide. We would wash them with the water hose real good, clean them up, shake them out, roll them up like a scroll, and put them in the freezer. And keep them, and like the day before or the night before the fur buyers will be at the store, you take them out and thaw them out. And sometimes we might take a hair dryer and dry these furs and fluff them up, make them look really nice. No joke, really. There's a trick to everything. And there's guys who was a whole lot better at it than I was. But John did not do this. He would throw these hides in a burlap bag and put them in the back of his truck. Sometimes, y'all know how it is in Texas. It gets a little warm, even in the wintertime. And if he'd been hauling around these, he'd have skunk, and they'd give $2 for a skunk back then. But possums and coons, occasional bobcat, coyotes. Anyway, he'd throw these in burlap bags and tow sacks, as we call them, in the back of his truck. It might get 90 degrees for a day or two. And he didn't always flesh these things out. Flesh them out means you get all the fat and all the hide off, or all the meat off, where it's just hide and fur. And anyway, get them ready for tanning. He didn't clean them up real good. And the heat would get to these things in these sacks, and they didn't always smell real good. And fur buyer sometimes hated to see him pull up there. John would pull up and get his stuff out of that sack. And that fur buyer, he'd be shaking his head or kind of turn away a little every now and then. And John always got paid less for his hides than anybody else, and he couldn't figure it out. He didn't understand why, even though he'd have a big coon, he might get $5 or $10 less than this other guy's. Some people tried to explain it to him, but he just couldn't get it. John was a great guy. He treated me good, but he just had ways of doing things that just wasn't up to par. He worked on various ranches, did some cowboying, trapped and sold coon dogs and stuff like that. Kind of traveled around, but he lived up Garrett's Bluff, what we call the upper country up there past us. But I've been hunting a lot with John. He'd come by the house and visit and stuff like that. Old John, he took one of his possum hides one time, and he made him a possum skin hat. And it was a nice looking hat, like a coon skin hat, except it was possum skin. It was furred out wintertime. Possum had good fur on it, grayish looking. And he was up at the store at Forest Chapel, which is 5 miles west of Chakota, Texas. Ain't nothing there but a store and a sign. And that's the main area that I grew up in. It's right through there in the Chakota and everything. But anyway, John was up at the store. Two 2 screen doors on the store. It's winter time. They've got plastic over the screen doors. They've got a Dearborn heater in the middle of the store. If y'all don't know what that is, that's a propane heater. Got the fire going. And these old country stores, you go in there, they'll make you a bologna sandwich, ham sandwich, pressed ham, whatever, Cokes, chips. Stand around, eat your lunch. The guys that out there's farming and ranching, such as that. And old John, he had stopped by, and he was standing over there by the Dearborn heater with his back up to it. My brother was working the Red River Ranch back in them days, and he had gone up there and to eat his lunch. And he walked in, he noticed 4 or 5 other people sitting over here at this one little table, and John was over by the fire by himself. Dennis had him a sandwich, make me a sandwich and give it to him, thank you, which he said, you know, back after we're out, we're polite, we say hi to everybody, talk to everybody. But anyway, he goes over